Now on Overnights,
I believe in reason and common sense.
Leith Van Onselen from Macro Business with the Treasury of Common Sense.
Common sense never goes out of style.
Well, if you want common sense, you've come to the right guy. How are you, Leith?
Yeah, good, thanks, Phil. How about yourself?
I'm okay. Shall we start with the money and then we'll move on to other things?
Yeah, sure, mate. So it's on Wednesday, we got the all-important June quarter inflation data from the Reserve Bank of Australia. Now, I'll just take us back a bit. Listeners might remember that the Reserve Bank of Australia shocked economists and financial markets late last month when it kept interest rates on hold, and pretty much every economist in the country and the financial markets were expecting it to cut rates by 25 basis points, which is 0.25%. And the Reserve Bank instead held rates, which sort of surprised everyone.
Yep.
And what they actually said in their monetary policy minutes that were released a few weeks back, they're always released later after the actual meeting. They said that the RBA was waiting for two key pieces of data. So the first one, it wanted to get the June labour force data, and then it wanted to get the June quarter inflation data. Now, last week we got the June labour force data, and that showed that that the unemployment rate picked up quite significantly to 4.31%. It's now tracking above what the Reserve Bank's projections were. So that means and full-time jobs fell quite sharply. The underemployment rate, which is people who'd like more work, that also rose, and then the number of hours worked across the economy fell. So it was a pretty bad report. So that was sort of a tick in the box for rate cuts. And then on Wednesday we got the June quarter inflation print. So so this is the inflation numbers that come out every quarter. And what it did was it actually fell in line with what the Reserve Bank of Australia wanted. So both the headline inflation, so there's two measures of inflation. You've got the headline inflation, which is your standard, it measures the various, the 88, I think it's about 88 components that feed in the consumer price index, like all these different, things like rents and housing construction and all these different energy bills and all this other stuff. It measures all those together, it accumulates them, and that headline inflation came in at 2.1% for the year, which is, pretty good, 0.7% for the quarter, within what the Reserve Bank of Australia wanted. But the more important thing, this is the one the Reserve Bank actually looks at, it's not the headline, it's the trim mean inflation. And what that is, that's basically when you remove the most volatile items. And the reason why it looks at that is because it ignores things like the energy rebates, etc., which have kind of skewed the inflation downwards. But even that number also came in for 0.6% for the quarter and 2.7% for the year. And what that means is that both the headline and the trimmed mean inflation are now tracking within the Reserve Bank of Australia's target of 2 to 3%. They actually were last quarter as well, but they're actually tracking more within its target. So the Reserve Bank of Australia wants to keep the inflation rate between 2 and 3%. The headline inflation's at 2.1, the trim means at 2.7, both are within that level. This is a green light for the Reserve Bank of Australia to cut rates because the labour market, as I said before, is weaker than expected, and the inflation print's exactly what it was hoping for. So the good news there, Phil, is that we're almost guaranteed to get a 0.25% rate cut at the August meeting next month. So that'll be a relief to anyone who's, I guess, holding a mortgage.
Fantastic. Well, that's good news anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's obviously good if you got a mortgage. There's a lot of people who are sweating on those rate cuts. So, what happens down the track will remain to be seen. So the financial markets, which take bets on the interest rate futures market, that's all the ones you look at who there are a whole bunch of traders, etc., who make bets on interest rates. They're expecting, including this rate cut, 3 rate cuts over the next 12 months. So this one and 2 more. Now, I'm not sure what that came in at yesterday evening because it's always posted the next day. So following these results, maybe they've increased that to 4 rate cuts. We don't know. We'll find out tomorrow or later today, I should say. But, I think people should expect a few more rate cuts over the next year as well. So if you're holding a mortgage, you'll be pretty happy about that.
Right, let's talk about that's the Treasury of Common Sense. There's some other common sense that you want to touch on here too.
Yeah. So this isn't really an economic issue. This is going to be me having a little bit of a rant. Actually, I'm a little bit sick of Australia's nanny state. So the federal government was advised by the e-safety commissar. I'm going to call it a commissar, it's a commissioner, but it's really a bit of a sort of communist type role.
Right.
Julie Iman Grant, who's an American lady who's basically been employed to be our e-safety commissioner. They were advised to basically, so just take us back here. The federal government has brought in a social media ban for people under the age of 16. Now, it's supposed to come in December this year. And initially, it was going to exclude YouTube, right? Because the reason was that YouTube is a very important learning tool for children as well as adults. And I got to say, I actually think YouTube is probably the greatest learning tool ever created. I use it all the time for everything.
Right.
You know, whether I need to fix my car, my computer, need to look up, watch videos on how to, things like that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a good tool, exactly.
Absolutely. And I know from personal experience, like over the pandemic, etc., and even now, my daughter who's 14 uses YouTube all the time. Now, she taught herself how to do crafts. She's now become an expert in crochet, and she's self-taught from YouTube. She uses it to solve maths problems. She uses it for all sorts of things. She actually does it for content creation. She listens to music on YouTube. She uses YouTube for a lot of stuff, right? She uses it very productively. It's made her a very smart girl. She uses it for research, basically how-to videos. She's self-taught herself in all these areas using YouTube. So I'm a massive fan of it. She uses it correctly. She's a 14-year-old kid, incredibly smart. Anything she needs to find out, she goes to YouTube. She learns how to do it. She watches tutorials, etc. It is absolutely fantastic. Her various teachers at both primary school and at secondary school have often directed their students to go to how-to videos on YouTube to assist them with various things. She uses it for artwork. There's a whole bunch of things. She's learned how to draw properly using YouTube how-to tutorials. So she uses it for everything. And teachers often instruct their students to use YouTube as well. Now, crazily, this e-safety commissar has told the federal government that it must bring YouTube into its its net, and basically ban it for under 16s. And illustrious Prime Minister Anthony Albanese went on ABC Insiders over the weekend, and he said that the e-safety commissar had told him that up to 4 in 10 young people under the age of 16 who've engaged in YouTube have been harmed by that engagement. Right? It's kind of ludicrous. So he's basically saying that 4 in 10 kids who use YouTube are harmed by YouTube. And, however, Sky News, through Freedom of Information, actually found the survey that this claim and that this e-safety commissar has used to persuade the government to ban YouTube, they actually got the underlying survey. And what I found is that the survey actually showed that YouTube was one of the safest platforms for areas like grooming, sexual harassment, bullying, things like that. And it found that children are more likely bullied via text message than YouTube. So YouTube was actually pretty much the most, one of the most safest platforms out of all the platforms that were surveyed. And yet the government has announced on Wednesday that it's going to reverse its decision. It's going to ban YouTube for under 16s. YouTube Kids, which is really for nursery rhymes and that sort of thing, that'll remain. But regular YouTube is going to be banned for under 16s. And I think this is absolutely deplorable. And what it means is that Australia's social media ban with YouTube is going to be amongst the very strictest in the world. And it's going to impose penalties of up to $50 million. Or $49.5 million on platforms unless they enforce the new age limit. Now, as I said, I honestly believe YouTube is one of the greatest educational tools available. You can basically find out how-to videos on anything. I use it all the time, whether it's to fix the engine in my car if I've got a problem, how to do various fixes on how to do repairs around the house. I'll go and look up a YouTube video on how to fix something if it's broken. Coffee machines, I've used on my coffee machine which broke, all these sorts of things. My daughter uses it, 14-year-old uses it for all sorts of stuff. And, quite frankly, as I said, teachers often direct students onto how-to videos as well. So this is blatant regulatory overreach by the government. And quite frankly, as a parent, I'm going to decide what my children watch. I'm not going to allow it to the government. And I'm going to get around this rule. I'll say it quite blatantly. She can sign into my account and she can use mine because I quite frankly are sick of this government, sick of our governments micromanaging our lives and, basically telling us what to do. They've been emboldened by the pandemic, whereby they locked us down for, I live in Melbourne, we were locked down for 9 months. It was absurd. And I think our governments have been basically, have taken the pandemic as a lesson, and now they're trying to micromanage our lives. And probably one of the worst things about this, Phil, is that the coalition is actually a massive supporter of this social media ban. And it actually wants, it has wanted YouTube banned from the start. Now, I find this absolutely disgusting because when you actually look at the Liberal Party's manifesto, it has on the website, they have Our Beliefs manifesto. It says that they, quote, believe in the inalienable rights and freedoms of all peoples and will work towards a, quote, lean government that minimises interference in our daily lives. In short, we believe in individuals' freedom and free enterprise, and if you share this belief, then this is the party for you. Well, why is the coalition, the Liberal Party, who supposedly believes in freedoms, supporting this bill, this junk bill? And I think, honestly, Phil, I think this social media ban is a microcosm of the problems that are engulfing our nation and are engulfing our Australian politics. We've got a Liberal Party that's not liberal. We've got a Labor Party that does not represent Australian workers. And we've got a Green Party that is intent on destroying the natural environment via endless mass immigration, because the Green Party basically wants open borders. So, instead of our politicians focusing on these unnecessary side issues, they need to just get back to the fundamentals of government. What is government there for? Efficient taxation, service delivery, energy policy, and improving our overall living standards. And instead, we're getting this authoritarian woke garbage that is basically turning the nation into a dystopian.
Yeah, that's it. And we're going to talk about this later as well and whether or not YouTube is the right platform. In the meantime, people want to go and find some common sense, Leith. Where do they go?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. They can go to macrobusiness.com.au, write about these issues, all the time. And, quite frankly, Phil, I think we all need to stand up to this. And the worst thing about it is Anthony Albanese has said that he's going to go to the United Nations and try and persuade other countries to bring in similar rules. Now, this is just crazy. Like, this is George Orwell 1984 stuff. We need to stand up.